some people think that climate change could have a negative effect on business. Other people think that climate change could create more business opportunities. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, before I even start deconstructing this question, the usual steps that we're going to follow are: step 1, understand the given statement; step 2, understand the instruction; and step 3, generate content, right? So before we get into the nitty-gritties of how we write down this question, what we're going to discuss is the time management, because time is very, very important in your IELTS essay. So how do you manage your time? So see, in IELTS, for your writing task specifically, you are given a total of 1 hour. Now, how is this 1 hour, how this 1 hour breaks down into your planning, into your writing task 1 and writing task 2. So since we know that writing has 2 tasks, there is task 1, there is task 2. For task 1, you have to write minimum 150 words, and for task 1, and for task 2, you have to write minimum 250 words. So the general recommended division of time that we do here is 20 minutes and 40 minutes. That means that you'll be splitting 20 minutes for your task 1, and then you'll be utilizing those 40 minutes for your task 2. Generally, students prefer to attempt their task 2 before task 1 so that they have enough time to think and then improvise in case they exceed their time limit. So that is again according to your convenience, whichever you think is better for you. You can go ahead with your particular time management skills. Now, understanding how to utilize these 40 recommended minutes that we have written here. So let's see how can you break down it. So you can take about 2 to 3 minutes for understanding the question or the statement. What does this understanding include? This includes understanding the size of the argument that are given to you, understanding the keywords that are used in your particular essay so that you can align your essay in that direction. Because remember, when we read the question, it is not just about 2 major sites, but there are subtle cues within them, nuanced cues that you have to follow through. Then we can talk about the instruction that is given to you. So you'll be planning out the structure of the essay. So first you can understand the statement, then you can take 2 to 3 minutes to plan out the structure. This will include generating your content as well. So how will you do this? You will be, of course, you'll figure out how many body paragraphs do you need, how are you going to structure those body paragraphs, what are you going to write first. So let's say your answer is discuss both views and give your opinion. You are choosing for a one-sided opinion, which we'll discuss in more detail in the further slide, but then that means you'll have 2 body paragraphs. So you keep these 2 to 3 minutes to plan out your essay, and then what pointers are you going to write in here? What do I mean by pointers? Brief arguments. Like in very, very brief 1-word answer, you can jot down the points that you're going to write on, let's say, a rough sheet of paper or somewhere that you can do your rough work. So this is how you utilize your first 5 to 6 minutes in your IELTS writing by planning out your essay properly. And then you can utilize the rest of the time. So we're left with 35 minutes. You can see according to your convenience, how much time are you taking on the introduction. Let's say you take about 5 minutes on introduction, or around 8 minutes to be more practical. Then how are you going to divide the rest of the time between your body paragraphs? How soon will you wrap up the conclusion? So this is something that you have to develop on your own with practice, that when you practice, you realize that how much time is your time going, right? How much time are you taking for the introductions? How much time are you taking for the body paragraphs? And what is the best time management strategy that suits you particularly? Now let's understand this given statement. Now for understanding this given statement, I always tell my students, it is important for you to reread the question as many times as possible so that you make sure that you're not missing out on anything. Because a lot of the times, the question may have a broad idea. For example, there was this one question that we were discussing that had the difference between, basically a comparison between TV and books. But comparison in what terms? Comparison on the terms of harnessing imagination in humans. So see, that is why it is important for you to read and underline the keywords so that you understand, okay, we are supposed to compare here these 2 sides of the argument, but on what basis are we supposed to compare? Or is there something else that they have added an extra information that we are supposed to incorporate in our essay? This is very, very important for your task response which is one of the assessment criteria, and task responses, how relevant your response is, how on track you are with your response, that whatever answer that you're writing, it should be very, very relevant to the question that is asked you. So let's read this question. Some people think that climate change could have a negative effect on business. Other people think that climate change could create more business opportunities. Discuss both views and give it a report. So first the question says that climate change may have a negative side on impact on business. The other side says that climate change may actually create more business opportunities because then you will require precautionary, some sort of products, materials, then you'll have business opportunities for that, or however you are going to take this question. So these are the two sides of the argument. If you look at this question, this is some sort of a unusual question. So that is why it is also important for you to read a lot of articles, update yourself on the current trends and current relevancies. So read newspapers and understand what is going on in the world so that you can create more content and cohesively write down these answers. So the two sides, the first thing I do always when I discuss both views and give an opinion is I jot down the two sides that are given to you. So firstly, overall, we are talking about climate change, right? So the overall essay is about climate change. So what are the two sides of the climate change? We're going to talk about climate change effect on business, right? This is the major idea. This is the broad idea. Now, what are the two sides? So the two sides is one says that it will negatively impact business, but the other side says no, it will create more business opportunities. This is okay. Not really comprehensible, but yes, we can go with it. Right? So this is the broader idea is we're going to talk about climate change, but are we going to focus on climate change? Not at all. We're going to relate its effect on business. How will it affect business? So you can either pick a side. Firstly, we'll discuss both the sides that yes, how will this be negative? How will this be positive? But then we will pick a side that what side will it what kind of your opinion on the matter is, which we'll discuss how do we structure that in the further slides. Step number 2, understand the instruction. So we just did that. We discussed both sides and we have to give our opinion on this matter. I'll discuss this in the upcoming slide. Step 3, generate content. So once you've decided on your opinion, then you can go ahead and generate content. So first thing is, if it is a negative thing, if it will have negative impact on business, how do you think will that happen? Right? Why will it have a negative impact on businesses? Maybe you can say resources will be expensive or some sort of like, for example, in you need more cold storages because now that you need to tackle with the temperature because there's some things are very temperature sensitive. All sorts of things that you can think of. You can think of different points, right? So whatever you feel like is very relevant to this question, you can go ahead and explore that trajectory. Then we'll talk about why is this a good thing for new business opportunities? Like how will this create new business opportunities? Because emerging trends will like create demand for newer products. For example, let's say some sort of heat protectors, UV ray protectors, like you need better UV rays protection because now that the climate is changing, you maybe need some sort of better kind of care. So these are all new business opportunities that you can think of, right? So let's have a look at what we have written in this particular essay for you. Okay, so before I dive into the question sample answer that we've written here for you, you can go ahead and take a minute on deciding what your opinion will be on the matter, and then we can discuss both sides that how will you elucidate your opinion, what will the structure that you'll be following, and what kind of points do you think are relevant to this essay? Do you believe that what I said in the previous slides is more compatible, or do you have better points according to your given knowledge? So you can take about a minute or 30 seconds or so to decide on what are you going to think about. Then we can move ahead with the sample answer that we have written for you. So you can create some comparisons and draw how are you supposed to write. All right. So let's talk about the two kinds of opinions, right? So when we say discuss both sides, that is given. You have to discuss both the sides neutrally. But then when you're giving your opinion, you have a choice between one-sided opinion and a balanced opinion. What is a one-sided opinion? A one-sided opinion is when you agree with one side completely. That means that you think it has a negative effect, right? And there is no other point that you can think of for creating more business opportunity. That is a one-sided opinion. When I say balanced opinion, what is a balanced opinion? When you think that, okay, there are some negative effects, but it could also create more business opportunities. Like 70% you agree that yes, it will have negative impact, but in some rare cases, like in 30% cases, there might be some more business opportunities in terms of that are originating due to climate change. So this is first thing is first, that you have to be very clear on what is the difference between a one-sided opinion and a balanced opinion. Then we will have the structure for the essay. So when you are giving a one-sided opinion, how do you structure your essay? So both of them start with, as usual, introduction, right? So you'll give your paraphrase, thesis, your points. Then you'll have body paragraph 1. And what will you write in body paragraph 1? You will write down the side 1 of the argument. What is the side 1? That yes, it has a negative impact. So this is your body paragraph 1, and you will discuss about the negative impacts of the climate change on the business. Then we'll have body paragraph 2, where we will be talking about the side 2. Now, what is the side 2? That is, it will create more business opportunities. How? Now, depending upon your opinion, if you think it is negative, you'll add one line here for your opinion. So I'm assuming that you have a negative viewpoint, but if you have you think that it will create more opportunities, then you'll add this opinion line with this paragraph. So this is how you structure it, and then you of course wrap it up with your conclusion. A structure for your one-sided essay. Balanced opinion. Same, we'll start with introduction. Then we move on to your body paragraph 1, similarly as we have written here. So we'll be discussing neutrally side 1, that is the negative impact. Then we will write the body para 2 for the side 2. And then we'll have a third body paragraph. Here you'll be stating your balanced opinion. So remember, when you have a balanced opinion, you'll dedicate a separate body paragraph to it. And then you'll have, last but not the least, your conclusion. So see, just because you're a simple variation of your opinion being one-sided and balanced, the structure of the essay changed, right? This is what I was trying to tell you in the beginning when we were discussing different types of essay, that how different types of essays can alter the structure of your essay and your approach to the essay. All right, let's move on and read the sample answer that we have written for you. Introduction. So before we dive into the introduction, let's all quickly recall the important or the crucial, the essential elements of your introduction. So what all do you need in your introduction? Number 1, you need a paraphrase statement. Now, it is very important for students to understand the purpose of these things, right? Don't just memorize the structure that we are giving you. We need to also understand, why are we paraphrasing this question? What is the purpose of paraphrasing? So the purpose of paraphrasing is that when I read your essay or the examiner reads your essay, your first line should give a clear idea or a summation of what exactly are we discussing in this essay. That is the purpose of paraphrase. So then you can go ahead and paraphrase it, right? And it creates more clarity instead of just memorizing, oh, you have to paraphrase the question statement. No, you have to give the basic idea of the argument that you're going to discuss in this essay. Number 2 is your points. So when I say points, you can briefly discuss them, right? Again, this is a matter of choice also, that if you have very concise keywords and you're not exceeding the word limit on introduction, which is generally 40 to 55 words. 45 to 55 words, around that. So if you're not exceeding that, you can go ahead and briefly discuss your points. Okay, these are the arguments that I'm going to present in the essay. Last but not the least, your thesis statement. So what do we mean by thesis statement? Don't just memorize the name. Thesis statement is nothing but the answer to the question. So if you have discussed both views and you have given your opinion, your thesis statement is done. So that is why you have to clearly state your opinion also in the introduction. Okay. So that the examiner, before diving into the essay, is clear on the idea of what you're going to present. Because what is an introduction? It is a preface. It is a index to your essay. So you'll be telling them what we're going to discuss, what arguments are going to present, and what is your opinion on the matter. All right. So let's have a read. Climate change has become a topic of growing concern globally, sparking debates on its potential impact on businesses. So see, this statement was talking about it will have negative impact or create more opportunities. We summarized it and paraphrased it, saying that climate change has been a growing concern, which is sort of a background statement, but we are also debating the potential impact on businesses. Then moving ahead, some individuals argue that climate change may have a detrimental effect on businesses, while others believe it could open up new growth avenues. So this is again, we're going to discuss the two sides of the argument. Now, in my opinion, while the negative impacts of climate change on business are evident, there's also substantial potential or innovation, potential for innovation and adaptation. So, can you guess what is the opinion of the writer in this particular essay? Yeah. Yes. So there is some sort of balance to it that we've been discussing that, okay, there are some negative businesses that are evident, but there are some substantial potential for innovation and adaptation also. So let's check out the essential elements that we talked about. We talked about paraphrase. Have we given the examiner the idea of the question? Yes, we have. Have we discussed some of the brief pointers? Yes, we talked about innovation and we talked about adaptation. Done. Have we given the clear opinion on the matter? Thesis. Done. So this is you make these checkpoints for yourself once you write down your introduction, that have you covered all of these things in your particular essay or not. Let's go ahead. So as you can see, this essay has 3 body paragraphs. Let's discuss them one by one. Body paragraph 1. Again, body paragraph, essential elements. So what are the essential elements of a body paragraph? Number 1, we have your topic sentence. Again, the purpose of topic sentence is opening the argument, again giving a brief idea of what this particular paragraph has. Then supporting statement. Now, supporting statement is essential because supporting statement gives backing to your argument. That you're not just saying it by just rephrasing some words on here and there, but you're giving proper reasons to it. Like there are reasons that you are talking about, and these are the reasons that you're quoting in your particular essay. So this is how you can go ahead and you support your statements. Last but not the least, we'll have, yes, example. Very important. So once you support your argument with your topic sentence and give some reasons for it, you also have to give an example from your knowledge. It is written on your exam sheet that some sort of personal fact that you know, some sort of personal ideas or anecdote that you may have to reinforce whatever argument you give. So let's see the body paragraph. So we start with on the one hand. What is on the one hand? It is a linker. So you can use a linker to start your essay body paragraphs to enhance your coherence and cohesion. So first, remember we talked about task response. Now we're talking about coherence and cohesion, which is how smoothly your ideas are flowing. So how can we ensure some part of it is by using some of these linkers. Then those who anticipate a negative impact on business due to climate change argue, so this is an opening sentence that we're going to talk about the negative impact on businesses due to climate change, that extreme weather events, rising temperatures can disrupt what? Supply chains and production processes. So this is your supporting statement. So now it is not important for you to have different topic sentences and supporting statements. You can make a complex sentence out of them also, right? That is why it is important for you to understand the intention behind these things rather than just cramming up the general structure. Then, for instance, the example. So you can again, for instance, is the linker that we have used. Industries reliant on natural resources, such as agriculture and fishing, may suffer a climate change alters weather patterns and ocean conditions erratically. So what are we talking about? That climate change really impacts, especially for people who work in agriculture, right? You depend on the tidal waves, you depend on the temperature gradients, you depend on the particular temperature that is required for your crop, right? all of these things will be disrupted if the weather patterns are altered due to climate change, right? Because let's say your crop is a dry crop, right? And you do not need water for it, like a rabi crop, right? So in that case scenario, if due to climate change it is suddenly raining out of nowhere, that will hamper uh, your production very effectively. Last, we've added one more linker. Moreover, now before I move ahead, this is a extra point. Sometimes you can add another additional point that you think, you might think of something that is very similar to this and is relevant to what you've already written and it adds to the essence of your essay, then you can definitely go ahead and add it. But if it's something that is completely out of the bar, and industries will be, the supply chains will be disrupted. So in Moro, we are talking about how in coastal regions, these might face increased risk from rising sea levels, frequent storms leading to infrastructure damage and operational challenges. So this is all that the arguments that we are given. So what was the argument in short? That it can disrupt supply chain and production processes, right? Now, few other things that I want you to keep an eye on here is that see how we have written negative impact as negative effect as negative impact. So you can incorporate synonyms so that you can enhance, again, you avoid repeating words because it's very frowned upon to repeat words. Let's move on to the body paragraph 2. All right, so say similar structures, we'll have the similar points, topic sentence, supporting statement, and so on. Let's go ahead. So we have conversely, again, a linker. Conversely, proponents of the idea that climate change can create business point to the growing demand of sustainable products. So remember, we talked about how climate change will like prompt people to buy more sustainable things, right? So that is a new business opportunity. You'll be like, for example, how sustainable practices prompted people to buy paper bags instead of like polythene bags or maybe jute bags. So there's a new industry emerging right there. As environmental consciousness rises, businesses that embrace eco-friendly practices, develop innovative solutions to combat climate change may thrive. So this is how innovation is being emerged. Renewable energy factors, for instance. So instead of writing, for instance, in the beginning, I wrote it in the middle of the sentence. So renewable energy sectors, for instance, could experience significant growth as governments and consumers increasingly prioritize clean energy alternatives, creating new economic avenues. So you can talk about biogas, right? That is a huge sector right now because people are becoming environment conscious. So this is how the other side of the world looks, or how the side of the argument looks. Now, what is your opinion? Now, since in the beginning, we went for a balanced opinion, so I have a third body paragraph here. So start off, in my opinion, the linker. You can write in my perspective and some other variations, whichever you choose to. Companies that invest in environmentally sustainable practices and technologies may not only mitigate risks, but also position themselves as leaders in a changing market. Businesses working to address climate changes can foster climate resilient economy, balancing the potential negative effects and opportunities for growth and development. So see, we are talking about the potential negative effects, that it is true that it will hamper business. But if businesses are ready to go ahead and adopt sustainable practices and technologies, then they might be able to mitigate these risks. So this is the balanced opinion that we have presented on this particular matter. Let's move ahead. Conclusion. Again, for conclusion, remember one very, very crucial thing is no new points. So you cannot do like go ahead and write a new, for example, you're wrapping up your essay and suddenly you come across a very good idea that you missed out. You cannot go ahead and write it in your conclusion. A conclusion is only supposed to wrap the ideas that you've already written. So you cannot introducing new pointers or even examples for that matter. You cannot write any new examples in your conclusion. But how do you write your conclusion? You simply paraphrase your thesis. So what was your thesis? What was your opinion on the matter? So you paraphrase it and give them a summarized version of what you mentioned in your essay. Now here, again, important, avoid repeating the words again and again. So use some synonyms. To conclude, there is no doubt that there are challenges posed by climate change to businesses. So in some cases, if you can't think of any, let's say, synonym for climate change, right? It's a very specific word, or businesses. You can write enterprises, but in the events that you cannot think of any other synonym, you can change the sentence structure, the part of speech, that word that is used by you, okay? Nevertheless, a proactive approach to environmental sustainability will create more resilient and prosperous futures for them. So this is how we have concluded our opinion on this particular essay. Let's go ahead and have a look at the final essay. So we have already talked about two things here, right? Okay, let's first have a quick review. This is your introduction, paraphrase, pointers, and thesis. Body paragraph, opening statement, supporting statement, example, optional statement. Again, body paragraph, opening statement, supporting statement, and your example. Then opinion, briefly discussing your opinion, conclusion, where you give your paraphrased thesis statement. So this is your overall structure of the essay. We discussed task response, that was relevance to the question. So we have already checked that. Coherence and cohesion, how ideas are flowing smoothly. Lexical resource, what is this? Fancy word for your vocabulary. So how do you enhance this? By not repeating words, number one. Number two, by using some collocations also. You can use some collocations. Do not use idioms in your essay. It is frowned upon. Essay is a formal sort of writing. You cannot use idioms because they are informal way of communication. So let's have a quick look at the words that we have used here. First of all, we talked about detrimental effect. Then we are going to talk about substantial potential. On the other hand, anticipate, disrupt, reliant. That means industries that we rely on. Erratically, that very fluctuating way. Then we have, yes, you can also use proponents instead of saying that, supporters or people who argue on this side of the idea. This will point to the growing demand of system. Environmental consciousness. So this is a collocation, right? Then eco-friendly practices, another collocation we have used here. Combat. Right. Then we have in our opinion paragraph, mitigate, right? To instead of combat, tackle, mitigate. That is another word for that. Climate resilient economy. Again, another collocation here. Collocations are basically two words that go very well with each other. Then this is the end. Yes, a proactive approach, right? That means a very immediate to action approach. Prosperous future, resilient future. So these are some of the words that you can also use in your essays, right? There are other words, if you can find them, find out their meanings and try to replace them, right? So when you're trying to especially solve some essays, go ahead and check out the synonyms. For example, mitigate. What other words can you use for mitigate? See if you can comment down in the section and see what synonyms can you think of instantly, right? Then disrupt. What other word can you use for disrupt? Anticipate. Anticipate is basically when you are predicting something to happen, right? So anticipation is that word. Detrimental. What other words can you use in place of bad effect, negative impact? Detrimental, distress, or what other words can you use here for your essay? That is how you enhance your lexical resource score. So when we talk about task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, all of these have 25%, 25% weightage. Last but not the least is grammatical range and accuracy. So when we talk about grammatical accuracy, your subject-verb agreement has to be correct, your tenses have to be correct, your punctuation has to be correct. It is very important where you place your commas and where you place your full stops, right? So make sure that you also are very careful with them. But also when we talk about range, I talk about different kinds of tenses, that you're not just sticking to one kind of tense, but also sentences. So how can you show range in sentences? You can use complex sentence, you can use compound sentence, you can use passive statements or active statements. You can use conditional statements. Conditional statements is, if this happens, if the climate keeps on rising, it will in future hamper the supply chains or the production processes, right? So this is how you can improve your GRA score in your essay. So see